My name is Mianta McKnight. I was sentenced to 15 years to life. I was 17 years old in 1995 when I was arrested. I did 18 years in one day, and I was released on December 3rd of 2013. And I'm now 35 years old. I had a life sentence. However, when I was going to court when I was 17, they were anticipating giving us life without. And at that age, I didn't understand what it meant. But after being incarcerated with people that have that sentence, I got a better understanding of exactly what it was. It's a very emotional thing. I watched many of my friends lose family members. I watched them exhaust all remedies in the court, and they were really hopeful and optimistic at first, and they were going with their writs and going to the law library and being very diligent and trying everything they possibly could, and to be handed an envelope that says all your remedies have been exhausted was devastating for them, and it just hurt me to watch them. It hurt. And to leave them behind, when I came home, it was bittersweet because I was happy to be able to get out, but to know that some of them are there and may never get out is just crushing.
Being a juvenile LWOP, I think it's a different type of sentence from everybody else. Like, you could come in here at the age of 25, 30 and know who your identity is. But when you come in here under the age of 17, you don't know who you are. So you're already sometimes influenced when you commit the crime and not thinking of things like you would as an adult. But when you come in here, not only did you make that mistake and have to come and do a life sentence, but you have to grow up in here. You know, I had fell into some struggles because, like, at the age of 22, after being incarcerated for like 6 years, I started saying, hey, I have life without parole, and I only had sex with one boy out there. And I say a boy because I was a virgin and he was a virgin, and we did it and didn't know what we were doing. But it's important to me because I feel like I didn't even get that to experience. And I never drank alcohol on the street, and I never did drugs, and I never went to a party or a sleepover. So coming in here and they say, oh, you're sentenced to life without, I'm like, well, I didn't even get to live.
The reality doesn't set in that you have an LWOP sentence until the years go by. Like, I couldn't really think, oh my God, I'm spending the rest of my life in prison. It's more of it's a death sentence, but it's a death sentence walking. So it's like you're on death row. But the only thing about death row is you're locked in a cage, and out here you can walk around, but you're closed custody, so you got to count numerous times a day. You're limited to jobs. And you can breathe the air, till you either die in prison or whatever happens. Mm-hmm.
Being young, I never had a record ever. I was a model student. I finished school. I have a lot of friends, different cultural settings. I'm an outside person. And being so young and not having no record and stuff, I just knew I felt the system failed me. Mm-hmm. Like, I ended up becoming a victim and not a suspect anymore. It changed. Yeah. It changed drastically. And how they don't even give us a tool to cope with a life sentence.
So aging is becoming almost frightening. Mm-hmm. Am I going to die alone? Who's going to care? Who's going to honor my religious needs? Mm-hmm. Who's going to be with me? I think that's why I joined the hospice team, because we do set vigils with them till the end. Yeah. You start thinking about that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's an unexpected slap in the face for me. I just never anticipated it.
My brother's a lifer. He's been locked up. This coming 4th of July, it will be 31 years that my brother's locked up. I'm basically on both sides of this story of having a lifer as a brother and being a mother of a victim of a violent crime. I have a son that was shot to death. He was 23 years old, and I remember wanting, when we were going through trial, I want the young man to be locked up for the rest of his life. But then now as I think about it, and 30 years later, my brother's locked up, like what good would that do? With my brother, it's like, okay, 30 years, what is enough now? I wonder what is enough and what's too much, you know?
Since my daughter has been incarcerated, the most difficult thing is, am I going to talk about it or am I going to hide it? Where do I get help from? Who is willing to help at all? I've kept it secret for a couple of years, not talked about it, thinking it's embarrassment, it's a shame. So a lot of my friends I've told, oh wow, she moved out with a boyfriend, she's not home anymore, but maybe one day you will meet her, because I don't want to deny that I have a daughter. It is like leading a double life, because some people understand and some people do not understand.
I remember when I went into my first time to visit my brother, it was crazy to me. It was like I was so scared. I was basically in the waiting room before we went into the visiting room, hyperventilating, like just watching all this whole situation unfold, like the gate opening up, and I was really like scared, like, oh my God, I'm going into prison. Are they going to let me out? Are they going to find some reason to keep me there? Because I know that they can keep you in there for the rest of your life. Like, they can actually keep people for the rest of their life in prison. And
I remember when I left the meeting with the lawyers and the DA after 2 hours and walked out on the street, I suddenly realized I had a headache, and I realized that I had to pee and that my back was hurting and my shoulders were really tense. It was like for those entire 2 hours I didn't have a body. It's like so much was riding on that meeting. Someone else's life was riding on that meeting, that I relied on an old survival skill of leaving my body and of disassociating in order to get through it.
I have a girl who made a mistake when she was 16, and I'm not embarrassed anymore. She landed up in the jail system and now in the prison system. I'm not embarrassed anymore. My daughter is in prison right now, and I'm not going to hide anymore. You have to accept me and our family the way we are. And my daughter has been imprisoned, and it's not all her fault. That's why I've been in hiding for so long. But I'm not embarrassed anymore.